Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Engineer Your Energy. I'm Caroline Milton, owner of Milton Coaching Collective. Each week I come live here across platforms to talk to you about the importance of engineering your energy. In particular, what are the steps that you can take, whether as an individual or for organizations, to build resilience, to increase our energy levels, and to beat burnout? Last week in our discussion, I talked about the importance of community and the importance of human connection. And today I want to build upon that and talk about the importance of relationships at work. When we're assessing our teams and asking ourselves the question of how can we improve retention across our organization and how can we build performance so that our teams are high performing teams, we have to look at how we facilitate connection within our business units. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone needs to be best friends at work, but I am suggesting that across our teams, there needs to be a level of trust that as a manager, as a leader, we need to be facilitating connection and trust so that we can support performance. Now, how do we do that? What is the how here behind the why? Well, this can be true for in-person teams. This could be true for hybrid teams. This could be true for remote teams because remote teams are going to have the largest challenge in staying connected because you're missing some of those water cooler moments, those opportunities to learn a little bit more about the human behind your coworker. So, how do we do this? Number one, it's important to regularly revisit progress towards stated goals and objectives. But before we even get there, we need to know what our stated goals and objectives are. So many teams exist and move forward on a daily basis without a clear understanding of what it is that they're working toward. What are their goals for the day? What are their goals for the quarter? What are their goals for the year? What are their goals for their career? And how are we as a group working towards those goals and objectives? Along the way, we should be celebrating milestones and small wins. I'm a moderator of a Facebook group of engineering working moms, and every Friday I ask the question, what's going well? What is a small win, whether it's the tiniest little victory or the biggest accomplishment, so that we can celebrate together? Studies have shown that teams that regularly celebrate their wins and who multiply joy, that is, they receive good news from another, and then they double that reception of good news with their joy and enthusiasm by asking questions and really demonstrating that support, have much lower incidence of burnout. So celebrate those small wins. You could start meetings off with that question. Who has a small win that they'd like to share today? Or you could do a weekly collection of your team's small wins. But you yourself as a leader should be also finding those small wins to celebrate with your team. As a team, we should be responding to requests in a timely and meaningful way. I know that oftentimes we can get bogged down in communication, right? So many emails that we have to filter through, so many pings on our WhatsApp or our Slack notifications. How do we make sure that we're staying on top of things? Do the best you can, right? And having those touch points and ensuring that the team is aware of modes of communication that work well person to person and across the entire unit is going to be key in ensuring everyone's receiving that meaningful update and feedback. Speaking of feedback, it's important in teams to increase feedback. When I was a young engineer working in manufacturing, I worked for PepsiCo. And one of the very first things that I learned there was how to give and receive feedback. To this day, it remains one of the best gained skills I've developed in my career because we take some of that knee-jerk reaction, some of that defensiveness out of the equation when we learn how to give and receive feedback. If you feel like your team is lacking in this area, reach out to me. I can connect you with some great resources on how to build these skills within your teams because it really increases collaboration. And it allows, again, our employees to see the human behind their coworker. Next thing you can do to build connection within your teams is to highlight times when team members stretch, when they provide assistance across business units or even across responsibilities. If there's individuals on your team that are limping a little bit, whether they have something going on at home, or maybe they are really struggling with the execution of their projects, rather than demeaning those individuals, we can use this as an opportunity to emphasize how the team supports one another, even in those instances, because we all have those times in our life where we can't work at 100%. And that's where we need to lean into our teams and facilitate that support. Next thing we can do is be transparent, especially when we're giving regular context updates and updates on major changes, both within the team and within the organization. Transparency is one of the most important components of ensuring our organization, our employees don't experience those high rates of burnout. So oftentimes communication is vague or inconsistent, and that leads to frustration. We don't know what the common goal is, and then we burn out. Along those same lines, be open and talk about the challenges your teams are facing. Keep those open forms of communication. You might notice a lot of these things are around communication. And it's no surprise that communication and community have the same root word, which means together, with or together. That communication facilitates community, connection, and those things that we need for high performing teams. Bringing this all back together, the first thing that I recommended was to regularly visit those goals and objectives. And you also need to regularly discuss your team's common purpose. And as a manager, as a leader, you need to understand the individual purpose of each of your team members as well. That can help really build that picture of what is the team driving towards. Some other things that you can do include debriefing about important goals, key decision points, at the end of projects. This is important because it gives your team members a sense of control. It allows them to understand what's expected of them. What are the criteria for success? And that is a really easy framework to thrive within. And finally, talk to each other about stress and other hard things. No, I'm not talking about group share time, but have those difficult conversations. Again, giving and receiving feedback effectively can facilitate hard conversations and talking about things that are difficult without there being that underlying fear of being attacked or being considered weak or ineffective on our teams. So facilitate those skills in giving and receiving feedback, and then regularly talk about the hard things. Be transparent, facilitate effective communication. These are the things that are going to build community, build trust within your teams. So that's it for this week's episode of Engineer Your Energy. Drop a comment. Let me know what really resonated with you about this conversation today. I'd love to hear that. And also use this as an opportunity to celebrate a win or recognize a team member or a peer or someone that you work alongside who's really been there to support and provide that sense of community for you. I'll be back next Thursday, same time, same place, for more conversations around how you can engineer your energy. Until then, be well.